What's good with it, chat? It's your boy. We back at it again. Look. I'm not even gonna get too into it tonight. Look, we're just kicking back, just enjoying ourselves, bro. Just get a good little hoodie on, get a good little Hollister. You know, I'm just saying, I'm just rocking the old school. I remember back in the day when things were simple. I would just only rock fucking Hollister, bro. I was rocking Hollister all through middle school, bro. I wore nothing else but Hollister, bro. I wanted to be a Hollister model so bad. But I feel like it is good that I didn't become a Hollister model, because I feel like I would be on the Epstein Island if that was the case. Because, bro, the more I look into this shit, it just seems like a whole lot of fucking shenanigans going on, bro. At this point, I don't even know what to believe. I don't even know what to say, because I feel like every stone you uncover, there's 50 more underneath that, bro. I feel like we're at a point where things are just so fucked that you're just like, bro, fuck it. Just have a good time while it lasts, bro. There's nothing that you can genuinely do at this point. I really got something stuck in my tooth. And that is the problem that we have in our government, bro. Nobody's trying to fix it. It's just something stuck in your tooth. It's just something there. You just don't know how to take it out. You're fucking with it. You try to take it out, but as you take it out, it does nothing. But it's just so deep in there. It's in the roots. Chat, I don't know how to say this, but it seems like it is a cabal of people. It is not just the elites. They got everybody, bro. They're getting everybody, bro. I really don't know what is going on at this point, bro. I think they even got fucking Alex Jones. I think they even got his ass. And he was the one that was leading the path back in the day. I don't know what I'm really trying to get at, but I feel like it is a dark, dark world we live in, man. And it's late at night tonight. I got the fucking red light popping in the background because everybody needs that SOS. We all under surveillance. You know, back in the day, I mean, in the new special from Chappelle, he talks about the fact that, you know, whenever you used to go to the clubs, you know, you used to go to, you know, parties or big drug dealer parties, they would have the red and blue lights to let you know you're under surveillance, right? You would put on music and then the beat would match the lighting, and then they would have like the popo lights, the red and blue lights, to let you know you are under surveillance. So be very careful on what you're doing. And I feel like the way the world is going and the way social media is portraying the freedom of speech right now, because I don't think this is by coincidence that the freedom of speech is so free. I am under the impression that they're building a dossier on everybody. I think they're building a long laundry list of people that are not on their side, and they're just rolling out the Rolodex to see, hey, who do we gotta get to get that guy? Who do we gotta get to get that girl? You know, who do we gotta get to compromise? But this is, of course, GTA RP roleplay for real. We're going HDMI cable PS5 over here. This is all fun and games. I'm just having a good time. So look, chat, I feel like right now you're seeing a big flood of people just talking about Epstein and the documents about it. But I don't know for sure. But I have a feeling there's an ulterior motive to them letting you talk about this stuff. I genuinely don't think they're gonna let it slide. They're not just doing the free speech for free speech's sake, right? We already know these people will censor you to no fucking avail. They will fucking put you away for the simplest thing, and that's what they're doing in England. Over a simple fucking tweet, they're packing your ass up and packing you off to the gulags, bro. And I think that's what's happening right now. They're getting a list of fucking people. They're just waiting. They're waiting and listening to these podcasts, listening to these streams. We're all under surveillance. I could be wrong. I could be paranoid. I could be schizoed out. I don't know, because this is all GTA, RP, roleplay, HDMI cable, PS5, LGBTQRC 1, 2, 3. It was all a psyop this whole time. We were all bamboozled with Black Lives Matter and Trans Lives Matter. We were all bamboozled. And then you find out that these motherfuckers were colluding the whole time on starting these Reddit forums, starting these 4chan forums, and they were planning for this shit to happen so they will distract you from this other weird old shenanigans going on. So that makes it really, really whoopsie daisy. What the fuck is going on, bro? I think at this point, this is a level that is way over my head that I can't even comprehend the level of fuckery that's going on right now, chat. And boys and girls, look, it's a dark, dark world we live in. Allegedly, these rappers, so-called rappers, were nothing but peddling these fucking kids to these savages, these predators. They were they were just a plug. Like, bro, Jay-Z is all of a sudden implicated, and I don't know if I'm getting fake news, but that boy flew out of the US right away. He said, I'm not getting caught like Diddy at all. I'm not getting caught like Diddy at all. I'm not getting caught lacking. And he got up and got out right away. And bro, what the fuck is going on? This is some real demonic shit. What do the average person need to do to stop this behavior? And the only thing that comes to mind is boycotting shit, right? But I feel like everybody is so self-absorbed in their own life, they can't do anything about it. Everybody has bills to pay. Everybody has taxes to pay, and there's nothing they can do about it. Or can we? I don't know. I'm just trying to open your mind and give you an idea that you might have not had previously. I just want to show you the light. Because only the chosen one would really rise up. Only the chosen one will really see the light and truly seek the truth. And I don't know if I'm getting the truth even, because it just seems like they've muddied the water with all these AI memes and all these fucking weird shenanigans, because the muddier the water, the harder it will be to see at the bottom of the pond. If you can't see the snakes, you can't see when they attack you. And that's the real fucking reality of it. They will attack. They're planning and surveilling until it is the right moment to attack. And I don't know what can be done. I feel like the only thing you can truly do is hey, shave up some money, bruh. Because at this point, you can't even save a Bitcoin no more. Because apparently, I don't know if this is fake news. I've not really gotten confirmation on it. I've just kind of looked around, and I was always sussed about Bitcoin and the blockchain technology. Don't get me wrong. They sold me on it, but I was never rich enough to buy more than, what I had, right? But after it dropped, like from a very big drop, I had to cash out. I was like, I ain't got money like that, bro. Some of you motherfuckers are balling. I ain't balling like that, right? But apparently Jeffrey Epstein was the creator, or had his minions at least put the money behind it. I don't know how to even comprehend this. Because I obviously understand that there's no way he could write the white papers. He barely knows anything about fucking blockchain technology. He barely knew anything about the stock market. But the fucking interview that he's done with some people is just really weird, that they were trying to redo his whole persona of not being a predator, instead be a normal business guy that just got into a bad situation. The PR firm that he had was also the same guy that was in the White House. I'm not listing off any names because this is all GTARP, allegedly MDMI cable. I feel like we're going to be talking in parables. We're going to be talking in speech that you have to be very careful the way you word things. Because right now, all they're doing is using the system against the people. And it is scary out here, because the problem is you don't want to be embarrassed and caught lacking in the system, because the cracks are there, but they have not fully really settled into the cement just yet, to where the wall is cracking. It's not yet. The wall is still strong because people are still kissing it. Our politicians, our celebrities, very powerful people. Fuck it. They not even just kissing the wall. They giving it that deep tongue. They going French vanilla on that shit, dude. It's crazy the way they making love to that wall. But I don't know what the significance is really about the wall. I mean, I know it's something mystic or magical, whatever, but I feel like it's just a humiliation ritual at this point. But the problem is, when things like this come out, it really fucks with your mental, because you've believed this stuff for years and everybody called you crazy. And when now finally these things come out, people like Ben Shapiro talk about, oh, they don't exist. Oh, this is not real. This is fake news. And then when they realize this is not going away, this is not something that will easily go away, they try to make it into a smear campaign. They muddy the water. They're lying to your face, thinking you can't read properly. They're thinking you're stupid as hell. And you might be, because I am. I always thought I was the smartest in the room. But bitch, look around. Ain't nobody in the room. Well, except some of these feds. They're in the room. Shit, they got a few microphones. One beautiful one right here. Just the one they gave you for free. The internet was free, but when something is free, just know you're the product and the productee. I don't know if that's a good correlation. I thought that sounded cold. It's fucking my mind. You know, listen, we can't take all the shots. I think at this point, they're just flexing. Anybody's touched. Anybody's touchable. That's the crazy part. You might think you secure as it can be, bro. You can have a glizzy. You can have a fucking rocket launchers, but these motherfuckers got nukes. They will annihilate your shit. They will rock your shit so far back. They give you a 7 head. You don't even have a 4 head no more. You got a 7 head because they're gonna push your hairline so far back. And then at the end of it, they're gonna hit you with terrorism. The people they're killing, ISIS killing fucking innocent American civilians. And what are these people saying? Oh, that was a domestic terrorist. They're using your constitutional rights against you. This is what our fucking leaders back in the day fought for. This is what they wanted to fight against, but it is back, but 10 times worse. And it's here for blood. Because blood is the fucking frequency of these demons. And they need your blood. Because your blood is pure. The symbolism, the weird mythology, the weird shenanigans that's going on, right? The weird redundancies. They seem to not be of just this time. This is something ancient. We're fighting an ancient war, a spiritual war from years and years. This is old money. This is old spirits. This is old war. This is more than just left and right. This is a battle between the soul. I feel like they're soul harvesting. It's weird to even think about, but it's also weird to think about these motherfuckers are sacrificing children and doing rituals to fucking call on a demonic god. But that's the thing. When you start thinking about things like that, you just get like, yo, what am I living in right now? Because people don't have the comprehension and they do not have the mental strength. They do not have the mental capacity to be able to handle this level of diabolical behavior. And I think that's what this is, just diabolical behavior. They know they can get away with it right now because people are feeling powerless. After COVID, we were feeling like we had nobody. And that's what we truly are feeling as a fucking nation. You have no leaders. You have no voice is what they make it seem like, but just understand God is by your side, and that is what is important at the end of the fucking tunnel. These people fear you. Understand that. They fear what you can stand for. They fear that if you learn the truth about who you are and where you came from, that they will not be able to summon no demon, no darkness strong enough to take you down. But like I said, take what I say is GTA RP, LGBT 123, HDMI cable, PS5, Xbox 360. We're having fun, man. We're having fun. This is just a good time. And for all the feds listening, hey, what it do, baby boo? What it is, it is what it is. You can't do nothing. The cat is out of the bag. Fuck it, the Glock is out of the bag. Now you just gotta let it pop. And all you have to do now is just wait. Gather your strength because the war is coming. Maybe not now, maybe not in 5 years, but it will in your lifetime for sure. I'm not fear-mongering. It is just reality. Look at what China is doing. China is gathering its population, its financial sector, and making sure they're ready for the global shift in politics. Because they were not on this list. Obviously, China has all kinds of weird shenanigans going on. They got their own fuckery. Russia got their own fuckery. But it's weirdly interesting that they're not on that list. A lot of those politicians over there are not on that list. It just seems to be the Western world that has the real bad man, you know? But chat, I still have hope. I still have hope in humanity, in the fact that people will always seek the truth and will always seek to help others and help themselves. Because that's what we are as humans. We are innately made to help each other and love each other. When you see these storms come by, you know, like whenever Texas all of a sudden went to the winter arc of 2025, 2026, right? The winter arc. The state got shut down, but who do you rely on? Is people in your neighborhood. It is your neighbors. It is thy neighbor that will have your back. Just understand that your fucking local politics matters. If you're hated by your whole fucking village, what are you supposed to do when you have no power? What are you supposed to do when the whole army is coming after you and you have no roots in your fucking village? And the village is just your neighborhood. I'm not talking like fucking villages and like we're in like fucking 20th century or 15th century, right? I'm talking in your own neighborhood, in your own community. You need to have your roots rooted there. It's the people around you that will protect you and love you because they know you. I feel like in the last couple of years, everybody has made this so decentralized and made it seem like that owning a home is just a fucking dream, whatever. Because if you own a home, that means you have a root somewhere. And when you have a root, you're able to plant there. The fucking fact of the matter is, when you believe in nothing, that's not good. That's not good. Because if you stand for nothing, then you will fall for everything. And that is the problem. These men, women, and I can't even call them men and women. They're fucking predators all around. This demonic entity called the government, right? That's all we can say. I'm not going after a specific genre of people. I'm not going, after a specific color of people or any specific sect of people. I'm just saying the upper echelon, the elites. Democracy was built on people and the republic. It was not built on these elites. Once you became an elite, you have left the democratic process. You have went to a level that is unachievable by most. The poor are not represented anymore in our government. They are not represented in our local elections. They are not represented in the fucking states, period. And that's when the divide really began, when the fucking politicians decided they were worth more than you. And that's when I think the real true war began. The war of attrition and spirituality really began when they thought they were better than you. All because of the fucking finite amount of money that is out in the world. And what is money? There is no money. It's all currency. It's like the current of the ocean, right? It just comes and goes. It goes and comes, whatever the fuck you want to say, because they control the fucking financial system. And in the interview with Jeffrey Epstein, he said it himself, and he said it best. Bro, I don't even understand that shit. These motherfuckers are not doing anything. The financier of all these people. The financier is telling you, dude, this is all a fucking fugazi charades. This is just the game. This is all fuckery to the next level. This is fuckery to the nth degree. This is a level of fuckery that you don't understand, because there is so much mud There's so much dirt getting passed around. They just scooping it up and putting it in your mouth and telling you it's food. Now it's goy slop. That's all you can really say, because that's what they have you named as. And that's what Jeffrey Epstein said himself. In his own emails, in his own text, he's like, oh, you know, I represent the Rothschild. Like, yo, what are we talking about? They're one of the 13 families. Very important numbers, very important numerology, 13. It's weird that you see these repetitions and these patterns. And the one good thing about the human brain that I know is humans are very good at recognizing patterns. And the one pattern that I've truly, truly recognized is we're all getting shafted equally. Let's not pretend like we're not getting shafted easily. Just because you're a house nigga does not mean that you can fucking shame the field niggas, right? I know I'm using hard words, but that's the problem. These predators created this divide between the people because they want you to be fighting amongst yourself rather than looking up at Massa. And see, Massa is the one with the fucking whip and chains. And he's the one that got you in shackles and telling you you're not strong enough to get out of these shackles. But no, God gave you the fucking strength to get out of those shackles. But the only way it can be done is if you unite together and don't fucking stand back and be like, oh, Massa, please, I'm inside the house. Please, Massa, I got you, Massa. I'm your inner soldier, Massa. That's the problem. You got some of these people, the top goys, the top cream of the crop that are so in bed with these people and are truly the real predators are the ones that are benefiting off fucking over their own people. This is truly heinous and evil shit. I'm not a political guy. I don't think this is even political at all. I think this is just right and wrong. This is just humanity. I think people's lives are too good right now, and they're not trying to shake up the bag. But just wait when things get worse. Right now, it's like, bro, I got kids at home. I got to take care of my kids. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got things to do. I got things to take. But listen, brother, this is not what you're really comprehending. That is the whole problem. When one person falls, that means the whole village falls. They're putting moles in your community just so that mole will come back to them and tell them what the fucking weakness in that community is. So they attack that fucking weakness and take you all down together. If somebody was like, you know, living in your house and then all of a sudden you had a break in, and little did you know, Lil Jimmy was the one that left the back door unlocked. You better beat the fuck out of Little Jimmy. Simple as that. You better kill Lil Jimmy. I'm not saying we gotta do something violent. All I'm saying is just see who Lil Jimmy is in your friend group. In America, your friend group has gotten real big. Your friend group has gotten real big, and you gotta understand this friend group don't want you because you don't really fit in the circle. They refer to us as outsiders. And that's the craziest part, because you're treating it like they will accept you as the insider, but you're never going to be the insider. I'm speaking in generic terms. I'm giving you easy terms. Read along the lines on what I'm really saying. Because look, this is all GTA allegedly RP. This is Xbox ISD in your PS4 HDMI cable, Xbox 360 Connect. We're having a good time, aren't we? It's tax season. The only real thing you can really do is boycott the taxes. I think that's the best way to change it. If you fucking stop their money supply, it is over with. There's no fuckery when you stop with the money. That's the number one thing. When you have the money, when you really follow the money, you see these motherfuckers are nothing but jiggling your balls. They're tickling your pickle and letting you know, like, listen, we're daddy now. But they're not daddy. You know? They're not daddy. They're just some lame fuck that wants to be at the party because he never got to be at the party in the first place. You see fucking these motherfuckers clowning on fucking Elon Musk. Elon Musk is the fucking lamest of them all, bro. I used to fuck with Elon Musk back in the day, but then I started to see, like, this motherfucker weird. When I realized he was lying on the fact that he was so good at a game, bro, that's corny as hell, bro. That shit should have showed us who we're truly dealing with. A crazy person. A person with no morals. He lied to the world about how bad he wanted to be the best at that game while running multiple companies. That wasn't good enough for you, bro. That wasn't good enough for you that you have to take the fucking gaming aspect of it too, brother. Some of us gamers are using this to escape the fucking matrix that you put us in. The surveillance state that you put us in. And that's the thing. That's what's happening right now. They're building a cage around you and blindfolding you before they let you out. They're like, it's a surprise. It's a surprise. And as soon as the fucking blindfold come off, you look around, it's nothing but a metal cage with guns pointed right at your temple, right at your cranium. And that's the problem, chat. We're all in our own prisons. We're all in our own fucking prisons, mental prisons. They made us a consumer society for what? For what? So we can depend on them at the end of the day. That is the reason they made us a fucking consumer society. So at the end of the day, they will have to hold your hand because daddy knows best. If we weren't consuming as much as we are, if we weren't depending on them as much as we are, we would be fine. But the problem is, it is hard. It is truly, truly hard to not be a consumer because it becomes the only way that you survive. You can't have your own farm without a license. You can't have your own machinery without a license. Hey, you need money for that. Oh, who created money? Oh, these motherfuckers did themselves. What do they do for the money? Oh, they just print it. They're robbing you and fucking making you pay for your own shit after they just robbed you. That's the level of fuckery that's going on. They're robbing you for your shit and and selling it to you right back. That is the level of shafting that I've never seen before. But look, hey, that's business, I guess. That's what they like to tell you. That's what they like to tell you. Hey, look, you're not working hard enough, brother. You're not working hard enough. Because if you're working hard, you could be here. No, you can't. Because the system will not allow you to be there with them. There's no way they will allow you to sit at the same table as them because you are a puppet or a dog to them. You're nothing but a pet. And after a little while, when you get tired of pets, you zap them and you tell them, get the fuck out. And I think it's that point in life where we've annoyed them enough to where they're like, get the fuck out. They're not even hiding it no more. They not even hiding it no more. It's straight to your face and it's blatant. This is out in the open. They're spitting right in your face and thinking you're dumb. They're doing this bullshit just to make you feel less than they truly think about you. They're like, hey, this is how we think about you, but this is where you really are. They want to spit in your face and want you to thank them for it. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Put your middle fingers up. Put them up high as you can and say, fuck that. It's over with. It's over with. Mask on. I know. Future says mask off. No. Mask on. Let's get to it then. Because the way they're making these people put their mask on with no badges. All right. They want to make it ice out. I'm going to bring in the heat. Let's go ahead and bring in the heat. Let's do it then. Let's do it. Fire with fire then, huh? Or fire with ice, as they say, you know? Fire with ice. But this is GTA RP. We're not doing nothing but just having a good time tonight. We're under a certain level of surveillance at this point. That is just, unfortunately, a level that you should accept. They just want you to go beat your meat. Look, I beat my meat earlier today. I can't even lie to you. I be doing that. Everybody beats their meat, right? We're having fun. We're having a good time. It's just GTA roleplay, guys. This is just roleplay. This is roleplay. Get you a cold one. I hope you're enjoying yourself so far. Hit the fucking like button. Hit the subscribe button. MrMuncher.com for all your comedy dates. I've been taking a little hiatus from stand-up. I'm taking a little break because all this shit is like kind of fucking with me. Because I really already been on this shit forever. You know, whenever Alex Jones came out way back when with the documentaries, I was sold. But this recent shit going on, it just kind of put me over the edge. It's nothing bad. It just kind of makes me think about shit. It just makes me think the fuckery that's going on in the world and the way that we do not know who the real leaders are. Everybody's just, hey, I gotta go to school, I gotta get this, I gotta get that. But listen, they are fucking shafting you like no end. And that's the thing. We're at a point that we're getting whipped into submission. And they're like, hey, listen, just don't beat me. I'll do it for you. The way the fucking level of good boy behavior that's going on. That's what this is, right? They feminized us. Feminized the men. They've really poisoned us. And to the core they did. With social media, with the foods they're giving us, with everything. It's just nothing but slop mentally and physically. So that way you cannot stand up to these folks. But let me tell you, God has other plans. And I'm God's soldier. I promise you that. I promise you that. Everybody has their faults. God knows that. It's the intention that really matters. So chat, if you really truly feel like you made mistakes, it's okay. Repent those sins. But listen, just know in your mind, it's the intention of it. These predators, these demons, they have no intention of letting the foot off the gas. They want your fucking soul. They want the foot on your neck. So understand that this is life and death. This is a level of psyop that we've never seen before. This is a level of gaslighting that we've never seen before. Maybe I'm yapping. Maybe I'm just talking fuckery. Maybe I'm just bullshitting. Hey, it is what it is. What it is, it is. It is what it is. We're having fun. If you understand what I'm saying, you understand what I'm saying. If you don't, well, it is what it is. Only the true seekers, the chosen ones, will understand the meaning of the message. If not, well, so be it. Well, the darkness that is clouding over our society right now will fall, and the sun will rise again. We will shine. The children of God will shine again. And I will tell you that this is not bullshit. This is the message from the Lord himself. Seek the light. Seek the truth. and seek the love that is out there. Not this bullshit that's going on. Fuck it. Fuck it. Have fun. Live life. This is the one life we have. YOLO. Drake said it best. YOLO. Go have fun. Go to the beach. Enjoy yourself. If you want to stay in the Matrix, it's okay. Nobody should blame you for that. If you want to fight the good fight, then go do that. But understand, everybody has their own battle. Everybody has their own mission. But the reality is, what is your mission? Even if I enlighten one person, I think I did my job. That's all it is enlightenment. Just waking up from the snooze, doos, hippity blues. Understand the level of spiritual warfare that's going on. Understand the level of demonic behavior. That's the easiest way I could explain it. We all are under a lot of stress. I know that. And I think that's by design. That's how our society was set up. It was designed to keep you with a boot on your head. And I genuinely feel that way. It allows them to keep doing what they're doing when you're so pressed down about the bills, when you're not really, able to think more than, hey, I gotta make my rent. Hey, I gotta make sure my kids are fed. I gotta make sure my fucking family is taken care of. I gotta make sure I make something of myself. But the Lord tells us from the beginning of time, you were made in the image of God. You were made with light. You were made to shine. Don't let these fucking demonic entities take that away from you. Don't let them fucking take the hope that God has given you. That is the one mission that I have, is to let you know, do not let go of the hope of success. Because we will succeed. They might be fucking up right now, but look, we're in the fourth quarter. We're on the fucking Hail Mary play. And look, whatever happens, get you a cold one. And sit back and watch it unfold. But look, tonight we're talking about the elites, the genuine, real elites. Why the bloodlines are so important. The 13 bloodlines that run the world.
Hey guys, welcome to another Tales of the Old World episode. My name is Andrew, and we're going to jump right in today because this one is nuts. Alright, so throughout human history, there have been many groups that were obsessed with keeping their bloodline pure. And many of them still do this to this day to some degree. But in ancient times, and even up to just a few hundred years ago, it was taken very seriously. All the way back to the beginning of human history, the people who ruled over us were all from a specific genetic lineage. And this is still true to a large part today. Not just today's monarchs, but also many leaders of nations, including American presidents, can trace their lineage back to this royal bloodline. But what is this bloodline? And why have humans been so obsessed with it? And who exactly does it originate with? They themselves actually tell us. They literally believe to this day that they are the descendants of the old gods from mythology.
Chat, y'all see the apple of Eden is in every depiction. The one thing I've learned about a cult, there's pieces of Eden. There's pieces from another world, from, I don't even know how to explain this. There's pieces of knowledge and you could use them as weapons. But there's pieces out there of Eden, hidden in the Vatican, hidden across the world, that are relics of the old world, and they seem to be everywhere, and that's what truly these elites are like really chasing. We're getting into schizophrenic GTA roleplay for real, for real.
They literally believe to this day that they are the descendants of the old gods from mythology. And because of this divine origin, they are the ones meant to rule over the rest of us. At least that's what they believe. And they won't publicly say this, but it's what their fathers and grandfathers taught them as children. That's why they call themselves the elites, because they believe they're genetically better than the rest of humanity. But it gets deeper than that. Not only do they say they are descended from ancient gods and demigods, but some of these royal families literally believe they are descended from what are depicted in ancient art as serpent beings and dragons. Whether they think this is real or metaphorical is up for debate, but that's what their ancestors say in the historical texts that have survived. This is where that whole reptilian theory comes from. But I don't think these people are really shapeshifters or half reptile or anything like that. But they are descended from what are described as divine and semi-divine beings, who for some reason are depicted as serpents. Let's look into each of these stories and try to find some answers. Alright, I usually like to start with what's believed to be the oldest, the Mesopotamian civilizations and the Fertile Crescent. And archaeologists in 1906, deep in the deserts of Iraq, found a list of Sumerian kings written in cuneiform that tells us who ruled all the way back to the beginning. Except that their beginning goes back much, much earlier than our version of the story. Theirs goes back tens of thousands of years to a time when gods ruled. The list starts with the pre-flood era. Before the flood of Utnapishtim, there were 8 kings who ruled.
The weird part is, bro, across all civilization, there's stories and myths that are repeating over and over, so it just becomes a little sussy baka. Sussy wussy! What is reality? Like, it seems like some of these stories are not just stories, they're tales passed down generations. And that's what I feel like these elites have collected, because these elite families run for generations. This wealth is generational. So they have those stories locked in.
Ruled over 5 cities, over a period of 241,000 years, each ruling for about 20 to 40,000 years, and descending from the gods themselves, even living alongside them in some of the myths. Later rulers that we know of, like Gilgamesh, were said to be descended from these people as well. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, it says he was 2/3 god and only 1/3 human. And there were a few rulers after him that claimed this as well, but then the power shifted hands and the divine bloodline was lost in Mesopotamia, and later kings never claimed to be descended from these gods like Gilgamesh did. They would just say their rule was divinely chosen, rather than in their blood. But other civilizations had this same story of divine descent, but they actually claimed to have preserved these genes from the gods. In Egypt, we find a similar story. They too have an ancient kings list, and theirs began with the gods themselves. The god Osiris and his son Horus were the first 2 pharaohs, and the later kings claimed descent from these gods as well. They claim that lineage survived all the way until the Roman times, with Cleopatra VII, who many don't realize was extremely inbred for this exact purpose, but after her, the record of that bloodline was lost as well. She had a son, but he was executed by Augustus Caesar when he was only 17, so it's believed that the line ended there. However, there are some stories of earlier Egyptian royal families departing from Egypt during other times of conflict. One story from the Irish and Scottish lore claims that an Egyptian queen escaped to Scotland after the invasion from the Sea People and began civilization there. There's not really a way to verify this, but many people, including the locals, believe this to this day. And there are some weird similarities between Gaelic and Egyptian civilization that people point out when talking about this theory. So maybe this is where the Scottish or Irish royal family came from, but more on that in a minute. We'll come back to Europe because the modern European royal families tie heavily into this. But for now, let's go east to India, where royals live not as leaders of nations, but of commerce, and don't run the country, but live as billionaires. Most of these families as well as many who have historically been in the upper caste of Indian society, claim descent from semi-divine Vedic heroes, Rama and Krishna, both avatars of Vishnu. But there are some families and tribes who claim their ancestors weren't descended from these heroes, but they came from the Nagas, the serpent beings in Hindu mythology. A race of...
That is so crazy, because I feel like Hinduism really needs to be studied more than just a religion, because it is the oldest religion out there. It has such weird historical presence. Some of the temples are so interesting. It is a very interesting way of looking at life, and I really want to study it a little bit more. You know, I feel like I want to get Islam and Christianity down first, because they're very like brother and sister kind of religion, right? Judaism, it's its own sect. I'm really kind of picking and choosing these stories and kind of trying to add them to my repertoire, using big words, you know what I'm saying?
People said to be either part serpent in form or fully human, and associated heavily with serpent symbolism. And it's not only in India where we find this claim. In Southeast Asia, modern-day Thailand and Cambodia, they have the Devraja, or God Kings. They also claim descent from gods like Shiva and Vishnu. The modern royal family of Thailand actually claims direct descent from Rama. But others, the Khmer kings, notably the ones who created Angkor Wat, claim descent from the Nagas, and you can see all the serpent symbolism in their art and architecture. But they too were eventually dethroned and their lineage lost. Some say it still survives in the modern-day Cambodian royal family, but it also might have been completely lost hundreds of years ago. In Vietnam, their founding rulers are said to have descended from a dragon and a mountain fairy who sired 100 sons and daughters. 50 went to the mountains and 50 to the sea. And their written record states that these were the ruling dynasties of Vietnam. The modern-day Vietnamese royal family lost power in the 19th century, but their descendants do still survive to this day. Although they don't hold any power or wealth.
Hey, imagine you find that in the fucking Epstein files, that the reason they had the Vietnam War because they were looking for these descendants. Ooh, that would be, bro. Now we're getting the ball rolling. Now we're really getting to the nitty gritty of it, you know?
Do still exist and live as normal people, but their lineage can be traced back to these first people descended from a dragon.
Because, bro, like the thing with the Epstein files, right? It's like they're drinking blood. They're doing blood rituals, right? So they're doing some kind of witchcraft that is not common to the average man, right? So there's some truth to it. So I feel like there has to be some weird shit that we're just not putting together right now.
In China, they have a similar story. Like many of these places, there have been changing dynasties in China over thousands of years, so lineage to modern royal families from the ancient ones may not even exist anymore. But it does exist in the minds of the elites, so remember that. Because in China especially, we had changing power many times since the first dynasty. Today's Chinese royals do exist, but again they live as normal people with special genealogy. They lost power in 1912.
He looks like a fucking nerd, bro.
But they are still out there. And their fathers and grandfathers claim to be descended from the first kings of China, the 5 divine emperors or sages, who were accompanied by the 3 sovereigns, semi-divine snake beings, kind of like the Nagas in India. And the 5 emperors had some heavy dragon symbolism associated with them as well. The throne the first kings passed down was literally called the Dragon Throne. Some say these emperors were descendants of the dragons themselves, because in many artworks they were given serpent-like features. And similarly to Europe, we find the dragon depicted in many of their family crests and totems. And in Japan we find an even clearer picture, because Japan has the oldest continuing hereditary monarchy in the world. They claim to have preserved their original royal line since their gods lived, and they claim direct descent from Amaterasu, the sun goddess. But in their story, they aren't descendants of dragons like we find in Vietnam and China, but they are descendants of a dragon slayer. This is also common in many cultures, especially in Europe. In Japan, the story goes that the goddess Amaterasu had a brother, Susanoo, who slayed the great dragon Yamada no Orochi. And when he did, he found a magical sword embedded in the tail of the dragon. He and his sister Amaterasu took this sword along with the sacred mirror of truth and the jewel of benevolence, and gifted it to the grandson of the sun goddess, who was to travel from the heavenly realms to the earth to rule Japan. These divine gifts were passed down to...
Why'd that look like Moses, though? I feel like a lot of these stories are just rewritten and just redone.
Grandson, the first emperor of Japan, and are said to still be in the possession of the current emperor today. But no one other than he himself is allowed to look at these items. Even during ceremonies, they leave the boxes holding these items closed. Some say they don't even exist anymore, and it's all for show, which could be true. But if they are real, the sword in legend is said to have power to control the wind and weather. The mirror is said to reveal a person's true heart or intentions, and some even claims it contains the spirit of Amaterasu herself, and it's possible to communicate with her through it. And the jewel is said to calm or harmonize divine energies, but no one's ever allowed to see them, if they still exist at all, except for the emperor. There's one legend that the sword was lost in a shipwreck during transportation in the 19th century, so maybe it's possible to go out and find this divine weapon, if someone hasn't already done so in secret. Anyway, so if we travel over to the Americas, we can find the same legends. The Maya believe something I find very similar to the Hindu world, with the story of the Nagas. They have a myth found in the Popol Vuh of two twin heroes who founded their civilization, and who their lineage of kings descended from. These twin brothers were born of semi-divine parents, making them demigods. The main myth associated with them is their descent to the underworld, where they defeated the lords of Xibalba, the gods of the underworld, who can often be seen with this serpent imagery, just like we find in the stories of the underworld in other cultures, just like the Nagas of India. The Aztec and Toltec had a different story. Many of their noble families claimed lineage from their deified emperor, Topiltzin Quetzalcoatl, who was the feathered serpent god incarnated in human form. The story goes that Quetzalcoatl's mother was a virgin priestess who, in ritual, swallowed a jade bead, a symbol of life and sacred essence in Mesoamerican thought. This caused her to miraculously conceive a son. It's believed that the god Mixcoatl, the cloud serpent, seen as the Milky Way in the sky, was responsible for this miraculous conception, and thus he imbued the spirit of his son, the feathered serpent, into this human child of a virgin priestess. Weirdly similar to Christian traditions all the way over in ancient Mexico. But yeah, many noble families in the Toltec and Aztec culture would claim this serpent god in human form was their ancestor, thus keeping this lineage alive, and who knows what happened to it today. It's possible this lineage still exists among certain Mexican families. And of course, some of these symbols we find in ancient Mexico, we can also find in the family crest of European royals. So, the European royal families are pretty complex. Their lineages have basically all crossed through intermarrying, so they're all related to each other in some form or another, as well as many of the kings and heroes in medieval...
Bro, why the fuck do they always have, like, inbred bullshit going on? Because I remember there was something I was reading and listening to online about history. Like, these motherfuckers somehow, some way have been having some kind of interbreeding issues since, like, way back when, right? Like, and they got fucked up, like, mentally, physically. They just looked fucked up because they were fucking each other, right? Like, but I don't know. I feel like it's so weird that they were, like, marrying brothers, sisters, cousins. Like, they were marrying, like, within each other's, like, first cousins. and they were just trying to keep that bloodline so pure. So there's got to be something to do with this bloodline shit. Like, they were so obsessed with it. There has to be some kind of bullshit going on that is, like, even if it's 15% true, what is the true part, right? Like,
stories. So let's just focus on the most famous of them, the British royal family. That being said, the royal families do still exist in a handful of other European countries. the Netherlands, Norway, Denmark, Spain, and Belgium, to name a few. Again, all of these families are related in some way or another. But in the line of King Charles in particular, it's been documented that he has some pretty interesting ancestors. First off, he descends from European heroes, such as...
And guess where he ended up? On which island with which guy?
As Charlemagne, William the Conqueror, El Cid, Robert the Bruce, and even King Arthur if the legends are based on a real person. But there's more. It's well documented and widely known that he's also descended of Vlad the Impaler, the inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula. And Vlad's father, Vlad II, was known to have been a member of the Order of the Dragon, or Society of the Dragonists, a group of crusader knights sworn to fight off enemies of Christianity. He took the title of Dracul, meaning dragon, leading to Vlad the Impaler, his son, later being nicknamed Draculea, meaning son of dragon. Hold on though, because it doesn't stop there. The British royal families also claim lineage to Woden, the Germanic god, thought to have been a real person that was deified into Germanic and Norse religion, being the same as Odin.
What's going on here? What's going on here? I'm telling you, bro, this type of symbolism has to mean something. They have some kind of knowledge on artifacts, ancient artifacts, some relics from the old world, bro. These are some kind of pieces of Eden. I can't explain it.
In Nordic myth. And I'm not even saying this is legit or I believe this, but this is just what they say themselves.
This is GTA RP, PS5, Xbox 360 HDMI cable.
This is what these families and noble groups have believed since the Middle Ages. They trace it through the line of Alfred the Great. And Woden wasn't necessarily a benevolent god either. He's well known for being a cruel god of war, who only watches the actions of humanity so he can pick the best warriors to battle with him someday, against the opposing gods when Ragnarok eventually comes. He's a war god in essence, but he's also tied into all sorts of mysticism and occult beliefs. That's who these royals say they're descended from. This claim is also held by the Norwegian royal families. It's most commonly held that Woden was based on some Indo-European conqueror, based on the DNA and migration evidence, most likely came from somewhere in the steppe region, to the east, and migrated into northern Europe. It's here where they came into contact with the very ancient Germanic people, assimilating with them and taking over their ancient religion, placing their king, Odin, or Woden, as the new deity. It is here during World War II that the Germans thought they had found the secret to this bloodline. You see, they believed that these early Germanics, who were here before Odin, came from Atlantis. They thought that Atlantis was the...
That is the weird part, bro. Even the Germans, like Nazis, were really into the occult stuff, bro. Like, I don't know why the fuck that everybody that becomes so elite, they get into this occult knowledge, like they start chasing it. So it just makes me think, like, there's something to this level of knowledge. They must be seeing something. There is some level of truth to this occult knowledge, you know?
Of the sacred bloodline, what they called the Aryans. And it was due to this mixing of blood with lesser lines that led to the condemnation of the island of Atlantis and the pure bloodline to find refuge in Germany, eventually conquering all the way across Europe into Asia. The Nazis took this to mean that the Aryans, or Germanic peoples, were the pure bloodline, what they called the Übermensch. And a surprising amount of royals in Europe went along with these ideas during that time. A shameful amount. Like, they don't mention these names ever again sort of situation. But it happened.
Bro, Hitler, like, has so many pictures with so many people. But, like, Epstein is the new Hitler, I feel like. Like, Epstein became the new Hitler.
Because they, too, thought they were part of this Übermensch. This sacred bloodline. The Atlanteans. The Atlanteans in the Greek myths were descended from the god Poseidon, so they literally believed they came from a god as well. British myth also tells us that the founder of Britain was the grandson of a demigod Aeneas of Troy, son of Aphrodite. His grandson's name was Brutus, and the legend goes that after the fall of Troy, he and a small group sailed to the British Isles, giving it its name, and founding its first settlement in London, naming it New Troy. This story comes to us from Geoffrey of Monmouth's 12th century History of the Kings of Britain. I'll link the full text below and add it to our book list if you want to check that out for yourself. It is thought by historians to be myth, but it makes the claim that these royals of today are directly descended from Brutus as well as King Arthur. So, the British royal families and these other European royals believe they are a mashup of heroes, gods, and demigods. This also ties into a lot of the US presidents' lineage, as many of them have also been shown to be descended from European royals. There's a few more to mention in specific. The old Irish kings claim to be descendants from the Tuatha De Danann, the mythical godlike race of semi-divine beings from Irish lore. The ancient Greeks claimed ancestors from gods and demigods as well. The Spartans with Heracles, the dragon slayer, and the first kings of Athens, Cecrops, a half-man, half-serpent. We also have the story of Cadmus, the founder of Thebes, who was a demigod, the grandson of Poseidon, of Phoenician descent, slew a dragon, and was instructed by Athena to sow the teeth of the dragon into the soil. These dragon teeth became the founding warriors of Thebes, and Cadmus' sister Europa was where we get the term Europe. And then, according to Herodotus, the Scythians were descended from the offspring of Heracles and a serpent-legged goddess. Again, basically the exact same thing as the Nagas from India. The tribes of West Africa, including the Dogon tribe, believe they descend from an ancestral snake god, which they call the rainbow serpent. This can also be found in voodoo religions across Africa and the Caribbean, and all the way in Australia they too worship what is translated as a rainbow serpent. And then even deep in the Amazon rainforest we can find local religions that have been locked in isolations for thousands of years, who believe their original ancestor was an anaconda or boa snake. In biblical lore,
that is so crazy, bro. The snake has been in the Bible, and it's been in the Quran. It's been everywhere. So there, I don't know. Like I said, this is just all fiction. Let's just take this as fiction and art. And it just seems like there's some kind of lineage to having a serpent come down and change how humans think.
These offspring are said to have come from the sons of God and the daughters of man. Based on the writings in Genesis and the Book of Enoch, God sent down a group of angels to watch over humanity, but they strayed from their original objective and took on human wives, siring children who were said to be part divine and were said in Genesis to be these heroes of myth and legend, and many of them were also giant in stature. This was why God had to send the flood to make an attempt at removing this bloodline from our genealogy. But it clearly shows in the Old Testament that some from this Nephilim line survived after the flood. It says that some of them became the tribe called Anakim, where it says the giant Goliath descended from. This is why many Jews and Christians say God commanded the Israelites to eliminate all the people in these groups, because they were from this demonic bloodline that would taint the sacred lineage of the lion. You see, something a lot of people don't realize is the Bible is actually largely about protecting a sacred bloodline that begins with Adam and goes through figures like Noah, Abraham, David, Solomon, and eventually Jesus. There are some fringe groups that believe the line continued through Jesus and Mary Magdalene, but this belief is pretty controversial and unverifiable. But the line did branch off from Solomon and continue in the African nation of Ethiopia. The story goes that the Queen of Sheba around 950 BC visited King Solomon, and they sired a child together, Menelik I, who became the first emperor of Ethiopia, and his 225th successor, Haile Selassie, was the last king of Ethiopia until 1974, when they were overthrown. However, his children survived, and the line continues in exile to this day. There's another bloodline mentioned in biblical lore as well. The cursed line of the Antichrist. It's believed that he will come from a specific tribe, the tribe that was cursed for their immorality and idolatry, left out of the gathering of saints from all the tribes during the end times, the tribe of Dan. It's believed that the Antichrist himself will descend from this group. The tribe of Dan was one of the lost tribes, sent away in exile after the Assyrian invasion. Their symbol was the snake wrapped around the balance. During the height of the kingdom of Israel, they occupied the northernmost territory. And when they were exiled, it's believed they went north from there. But then they were completely lost to mainstream history. But I think we can easily track them based on the names of certain regions throughout Europe. You see, whenever the tribe of Dan would take over a city, they would rename it after Dan. And we can trace this name all the way up from the Middle East into Europe, and eventually settling somewhere in Northern Europe. Most likely Denmark, the Danes. They traveled up through the Black Sea, up the Danube River, Dnieper River, Don and Dniester River, founding cities like Donetsk, Ukraine, possibly even being responsible for the mythical Celtic stories of the Tuatha De Danann, eventually becoming the Anglo-Saxon groups that inhabited Northern Europe, the ancestors of all European royal families. Thank you guys for watching.
Yo, I'm telling you, bro, some of this shit just goes so far back. It's hard to like really comprehend some of this stuff, you know, because it's genuinely, I don't know how to really process this like without being like, you know, superstitious and genuinely like look back at it like, damn, bro, like the fuck you can't take it all as truth. Some of it you have to treat like, you know, like myth and legend, and you sometimes have to just take it at face value certain time, but you have to have a level of critical thinking. Let's just suspend our beliefs and just kind of look at it like art, right? Like just pretend like these people had something in their mind and they really genuinely felt like this is reality. Because bro, there's so many elites, there's so many elite families that have taught this on and they've talked about this in online forums. Go on YouTube and you really go down the rabbit hole of occult knowledge and it changes your mind. But look, I feel like we need to get into the agnostic, I don't even know how to say this properly, like the Gospels, the forbidden teachings of Jesus. Look, I feel like I can't do it enough justice, so I'm just going to let them
Throughout the history of Christianity, there are few writings more controversial than the Gnostic Gospels. They claim to reveal hidden stories left out of the original Christian narrative, like the lost relationship between Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and how Judas Iscariot may have been the Bible's secret hero. Thought to be lost for centuries, their recent rediscovery has raised new questions about early Christianity and revealed fascinating details about an ancient Gnostic faith. In this video, I'll show you what's inside these lost books and why were they banned from the Bible. Welcome to the Gnostic Gospels, Christianity's forbidden writings.
The Gnostic. It's hard, I can't even say the word properly.
Gnostic Christianity is notoriously difficult to define. It doesn't refer to a single sect, nor did they follow a fixed creed. Instead, it's better seen as a range of early Christian movements, bound together by a shared idea that they possessed hidden knowledge about Jesus. In fact, the word Gnostic comes from the Greek word gnosis, which means knowledge. Many Gnostic Christians believed that getting into heaven was not through good deeds or even faith, but by possessing secrets about the very nature of reality itself. The Gnostics wrote their beliefs down in texts we can loosely describe as the Gnostic Gospels. They are often styled as secret teachings of Jesus, entrusted to an inner circle of disciples. But to understand where they came from, we must travel back 2,000 years to the dawn of Christianity itself. In the years following the crucifixion of Jesus of Nazareth, Communities of his loyal followers spread across the Mediterranean. Over time, these groups developed into the very first Christian churches. But as the decades passed, a problem emerged. The generation that had known Jesus personally were growing old and passing away, and first-hand accounts of Jesus' life were fading along with them. To preserve the teachings for future generations, early believers began writing down what they had seen or heard, often drawing on eyewitness accounts. Some of the earliest writings about Jesus were biographies that announced the good news of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. Today, we know them as the 4 canonical Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These 4 Gospels were widely read in the early church and soon became the primary source for Jesus' life and teachings, especially for those who had never known him in the flesh. But at the same time, other accounts of Jesus' life began to circulate, secret Gospels that claimed to hold untold secrets about the life of Jesus, with hidden teachings meant only for a select few. Many of these are what we now call the Gnostic Gospels. But here's the problem. What did the Gnostics actually believe? People knew that these texts existed, but their contents were assumed to be lost to history. But that is until the mid-20th century, with the discovery of the Nag Hammadi Library.
I feel like that's, something that all these elites are really interested in, are getting their hands on these type of relics or old books like grimoires and just weirdly old stuff,
In 1945, a farmer named Muhammad Ali al-Saman was digging for fertilizer in the cliffs near the town of Nag Hammadi, Egypt. While searching through the soil, Muhammad stumbled upon a large red earthenware jar, sealed carefully with bitumen. The jar had been deliberately placed at the foot of the cliff, and by the looks of things, had been undisturbed for centuries. Hoping for treasure, Muhammad broke open the pot, but to his surprise, he found 12 leather-bound books and part of a 13th. The texts were still visible, although they were written in a language.
You see the number 13 shows up.
Unlike any he had seen. Unaware of the true value of his discovery, he took the books home, and according to the story, his mother is said to have used one of them as fuel for the fire. How any of these texts survived is a miracle, and from here, the details get a little hazy, but it appears that the manuscripts slipped onto the black market. It would be years until one would resurface, in the most unexpected of places. In 1951, a single leather-bound codex arrives at the C.G. Jung Institute in Zurich, Switzerland. It was purchased as a gift to celebrate the 76th birthday of Carl Jung, the famous psychotherapist. The so-called Jung Codex was studied and translated. It was written in Coptic, an Egyptian language descended from the one once spoken by the pharaohs. Judging by the style of the text, it may have been a copy of a much older work written in Greek. The book was soon reunited with the other texts discovered at Nag Hammadi, which by this point were in possession of the Egyptian government. It was not until the mid-1960s when they were released to a select few historians and biblical scholars, and what they revealed was extraordinary. Although they were seemingly Christian in origin, they contained beliefs that were unlike any of the canonical writings. Instead, they contained teachings from a very different Christian tradition, long thought to be lost. Finally, scholars had access to a library of Gnostic writings. The books found at Nag Hammadi are often described as a library, which I think is a good way to look at it. Like a library, each text is different, but together they might hint at the interests and theology of the community the books belong to. So, where to begin with a collection as large as this? Why not at the very beginning, with the Gnostic creation myth? One of the most important texts from Nag Hammadi is the Apocryphon of John. Claiming to be a lost biblical text, it tells the story of how the world came to be and loosely follows the plot of the creation myth in the biblical book of Genesis. However, there is a major twist. What if the God of creation was actually evil? Throughout the Old Testament, the biblical God is capable of some pretty cruel acts, from wiping out humanity with a giant flood to striking down all the firstborn children in Egypt. Contrast this with the God of the New Testament, who is seen as far more loving and compassionate. So how do we get around this problem? Well, what if they are not the same being? The Gnostics believed in two gods, a lesser god, the one found in the Hebrew scriptures, and then a higher god, a great invisible spirit who resides outside the universe. The idea of this lesser god, or demiurge, runs throughout Gnostic belief. The deity is often referred to as YABOIII, and it is the Apocryphon of John that reveals how he came to be. Before time, before reality itself, there was only the great invisible spirit, a pure being of light, eternal, incomprehensible. One day, if you can even call it that, the great spirit began to think. But the moment this happened, another being came into existence. She was called Barbelo, and mother of all creation. Together, the great spirit and Barbelo began to create more beings. Shining out like rays of light, divine qualities emanated from them. The Gnostics called these beings the Aeons. Think of them as various aspects of the great invisible spirit. The Aeons dwelt with the great invisible spirit in a perfect realm known as the Pleroma. Soon, more Aeons began to emanate from the spirit. The final one was called Sophia, which means wisdom. Sophia was curious and wanted to create for herself, but acting without the consent of the Great Spirit, the result was a flawed creation that lacked...
See, the serpents always end up in these biblical texts and these fucking historical accounts of things, right? Like the serpent always, I don't know, they always end up somewhere.
Light. What she created was a cruel and twisted creature, with the face of a lion, the body of a snake, and eyes like lightning. This being was known as YABOIII. Too impure to dwell in the Pleroma, YABOIII was cast out into the darkness of the lower heavens. Angry and arrogant, YABOIII declared himself the ruler of this dark, empty realm. Out of his pride, YABOIII began to shape the physical universe, everything from the earth to the stars. To assist him, he created 7 monstrous beings, each with the head of a different animal. These were the Archons, who would rule creation beneath him. Yet the world YABOIII and his Archons made was lifeless and empty. And so, YABOIII stole a spark of divine light and placed it inside the first human, Adam. Within the human body shone the light of the divine realm, the only source of goodness in this corrupt physical world. Despite creating him, YABOIII feared the human. If he discovered his true origin, he would no longer need his false creator. To keep him distracted, YABOIII placed him in a garden filled with delights, hoping that he would never awake.
Why is it that every occult book always talks about, not every, but like a lot of the occult knowledge always talks about finding yourself? If you truly knew who you were and where you came from, your life would be on a different trajectory and you would be on a different path.
Bacon. Meanwhile, up in the Pleroma, Sophia grieves over her mistake and over YABOIII's corrupt rule. But there was still hope, for within the garden there was something that could set Adam free, a tree bearing the fruit of knowledge. To rescue humankind, Sophia crafted Eve to live alongside Adam. Eve eats the fruit, and her eyes were suddenly opened. Sharing the fruit with Adam, the humans soon realize their true divine nature. Enraged, YABOIII expels them from the garden and enslaves humanity through centuries of ignorance and false worship. Yet, he could never destroy the divine spark that lay within them. Instead, it lies dormant until a saviour will come to reveal the true knowledge and awaken in them a way back to the Pleroma. There are many versions of this Gnostic creation myth, but the Apocryphon of John sets out some of the core beliefs found across the Gnostic texts we'll explore in this video. The story responds to the problem of evil. If God is good, then why does evil exist in creation? The Gnostics had a radical solution. Who said God was good? The result is their creation myth, how the perfect cosmos of the Great Spirit was corrupted by YABOIII, and how humanity is trapped under his tyranny. You may have noticed his actions mirror God in the book of Genesis, but here he is portrayed as ignorant and corrupt, a usurper god who enslaves humanity. The Gnostic creation myth has another detail worth mentioning, and that's to do with the status of human beings. Though we are trapped in the material world of YABOIII, each person carries a piece of divine light. The task is to awaken this spark, to remember who we really are, and to reunite with the true God in the Pleroma. And the way to do that is through knowledge of our true origin. So, how can humanity be freed from this corrupt material world? Who is the one to reveal this secret knowledge? For that, let's explore our next series of texts, which deal with the figure of Jesus in Gnosticism.
Alright, this is getting real deep. I'm not gonna lie. This is like 2 a.m. type shit. Like, I like this.
In the 1999 sci-fi movie, The Matrix, we are introduced to the character Morpheus. In one pivotal scene, he reveals to Neo that the world is not as it seems. In fact, reality is an illusion, a prison known as the Matrix.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
Biblical scholar Nicola Denzi Lewis has pointed out that this line could just as easily belong in a Gnostic text. Like the character of Morpheus, Jesus is also portrayed as a revealer of hidden knowledge, though without the sunglasses and trench coat. With this in mind, let's explore the many ways that Gnostic Christians depicted the figure of Jesus. The Gospel of Thomas is a fascinating text. It claims to have been written by a man called Didymus Judas Thomas. A curious detail about this.
Didymus?
Is that two of these names translate to twin in different languages. Unlike the canonical Gospels, the Gospel of Thomas...
Hey, twin. Hey, what's good, twin?
Not
oh my
contain
God.
Any narrative. There's no mention of the life of Jesus here. His betrayal and crucifixion are absent. Instead, it's a collection of 114 sayings attributed to the living Jesus. And the very first one makes a bold promise. Whoever discovers the interpretation of these sayings will not taste death. When translators went through each of the 114 sayings, they noticed something strange. Nearly 2/3 of them match passages found in the New Testament. Curiously, the Gospel of Thomas doesn't simply copy them word for word. Instead, the unique phrasing seems to suggest that the same teachings
Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Whoever seeks shouldn't stop until they find.
were taken from an independent source. In other words, the Gospel of Thomas could be among one of the earliest Christian writings, possibly preserving the original oral teachings of the historical Jesus himself. But here's where things get really interesting. There are some sayings that are found nowhere else and are completely unique to the Gospel of Thomas, and some of them are highly strange. Blessed is the lion that a human eats, so that the lion becomes human, and cursed is the human whom a lion eats, and the lion becomes human. Now, in the canonical Bible, Jesus speaks in mysterious ways, even at the best of times, but the Gospel of Thomas takes this to the next level, with sayings that are downright cryptic. It's almost as if you need to meditate on these passages to draw out their deeper meaning. The Gospel of Thomas has garnered a lot of attention from scholars. It not only contains sayings in the Bible, but also some new ones. But if this lost gospel is genuinely old and contains canonical teachings, then why was it excluded from the Bible? There are a few reasons, but the main one is that some of the new sayings found in Thomas could be seen as heretical. For example, saying number 50. Jesus said, "If they say to you, 'Where have you come from?' say to them, 'We have come from the light, from the place where the light came into being.'" Now, it may seem harmless enough, but when you read it a little deeper, it has certain parallels to the Gnostic creation myth. If you recall, the Gnostics saw all humans as carrying the divine light within them, a light trapped by the evil YABOIII. In this passage, Jesus seems to hint at this, and that the spark within us must be reawakened. All this might seem like a little quibble, but it was enough to set this book apart from the canonical Gospels and the emerging orthodoxy. A second major reason why the Gospel of Thomas is not in the Bible is the way in which Jesus is depicted. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus appears as a wise human teacher, revealing the true nature of reality, and that's pretty much it. But in Christianity as we know it today, Jesus is seen as much more than a teacher. He is the Son of God, who redeemed humanity through his death and resurrection. This central element is almost entirely absent in the Gospel of Thomas. Regardless of its later status, the Gospel of Thomas is one of the most fascinating texts discovered at Nag Hammadi. More surprisingly though, it's one of the few ones that we already knew about. Since the late 19th century, small fragments of this gospel had been discovered, but the one uncovered at Nag Hammadi is the first complete copy. The fact that several manuscript fragments were discovered elsewhere suggests that this lost gospel was once widely circulated and may have been a contender for the biblical canon. The Gospel of Thomas remains a subject of intense debate among biblical scholars, particularly those who are interested in the figure of the historical Jesus. But few texts have gained as much attention and controversy as this next one. You may know Judas Iscariot as the villain of the canonical Gospels, the corrupt disciple who betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. But what if I told you that Judas might have been instructed to by Jesus, and was the only disciple who truly understood his message? It may seem like the stuff of conspiracy, but that's the focus of the Gospel of Judas, a Gnostic writing dating to the 4th century AD. This ancient text was not found at Nag Hammadi. Instead, it was discovered elsewhere in the Egyptian desert. And as you'd expect from a long-lost Gnostic writing, it too has a fascinating backstory. This document has been known about since the late 1970s and belonged to a series of owners. But once it left Egypt's hot, dry climate, the delicate papyrus began to rapidly deteriorate. Fearing its destruction, a later owner placed it in a freezer, hoping that the cold temperatures would preserve it. Unfortunately, this had the opposite effect. The icy temperatures damaged the fragile fibers that held it together, only accelerating its decay.
That just sounds retarded, right? Like, if you got it in the heat, right? If you got it in hot temperatures, why would you not put it in a microwave rather than fucking putting it into a freezer when it's complete different wet? Okay, you know what? Fuck me.
Although it was badly damaged, enough of it survived to be translated, and here's what they found. The Gospel of Judas claims to be a secret conversation between Jesus and Judas, set during the final week of Jesus' life. It begins with the 12 disciples praying to him, only for Jesus to laugh, saying that they are all acting superstitious and do not truly know him. But only Judas dares to speak out, declaring, "I know who you are and where you have come from. You are from the immortal realm of YABOIII." If you recall, YABOIII is one of the Aeons, a divine being from the heavenly realm in Gnosticism. By invoking her name, Judas reveals that he knows something that the other disciples do not, and that he alone understands Jesus' true identity. Jesus then takes Judas aside and reveals to him the hidden secrets of the universe, how the physical world is ruled by the corrupt demiurge, and how only those who recognize the divine spark within them can ascend into the pleroma. After finishing this long exposition of Gnostic cosmology, Jesus entrusts Judas with a special mission: to betray him so that his soul can finally be released. Speaking directly to Judas, Jesus says, "For you will sacrifice the man that clothes me." Understanding the nature of Jesus' request, Judas departs and betrays him, just as he was instructed to. When the Gospel of Judas was revealed to the public, it was the subject of widespread media attention. It makes some compelling claims, especially that Judas wasn't the villain as he is seen today. Instead, he is portrayed as a loyal disciple who has simply been misunderstood. Although it is a fascinating story, the Gospel of Judas was likely composed centuries after the canonical Gospels, making it difficult to treat as a historical account. That said, it does open a window into the struggles of early Gnostic communities against the Church. By using the figure of Judas, they attempted to reclaim this often rejected biblical character, and suggesting that he was the victim of a biblical smear campaign. If you ever get the chance to read this text in full, I highly recommend it. And if you're curious to hear what it sounds like, I've recently made a complete audiobook of the Gospel hint at Thomas and Judas are among the most famous non-canonical writings. They hint at a much wider world of Christian belief. But where these texts are most interesting is how they add to the Christian story. You see, in the canonical New Testament, there are a few gaps in the life of Jesus. For example, his preaching career begins at around age 30. But what happened before then? What was Jesus like as a child? One answer is the infancy Gospel of Thomas. Despite the name, this text has no relation to the Gospel of Thomas we saw before. Instead, it's a collection of apocryphal stories about the young Jesus, and many of them are really strange. The infancy Gospel of Thomas is kind of like Jesus' origin story. It describes the boy Jesus learning to control his divine powers, but often at the risk of those around him. In one story, a child runs into Jesus and bumps him on the shoulder. Angered, Jesus strikes him down, killing the boy. Frightened, the neighborhood children run away and tell on Jesus. When Jesus finds this out, he curses them and turns them blind. Jesus' childhood tantrum only comes to an end when his father, Joseph, scolds him. He can't go around killing people, but instead must use his powers for good. To make amends, Jesus reverses his punishments and raises the children back to life. Now, it's no surprise why these stories didn't make it into the Bible. This version of Jesus is downright malevolent. Still, the infancy Gospel of Thomas circulated widely for centuries. In fact, there are even medieval illustrations of these tall tales. But most curious of all is how one of these episodes, where Jesus forms clay birds and breathes life into them, is even mentioned in the Quran, the holy book of Islam. The infancy Gospel of Thomas is not the only piece of wacky Christian fanfiction. Another story comes from a text known as the Gospel of Peter. Dated to the 2nd century, it features by far one of the strangest entities in all of Christian mythology, a talking cross. The Gospel offers an alternate version of the Easter story and begins with the guards outside Jesus' tomb. Suddenly, it bursts open and strange men come out with the risen Jesus. But following behind them is the true cross, the same one used to crucify Jesus. Here's what happens next. They heard a voice from heaven that said, "Did you preach to those who sleep?" And an answer was heard from the cross.
"Yes."
Now, this
that was just low-key demonic as fuck.
Simple answer is the only word the cross actually speaks. Still, to my mind, a giant walking talking cross would have been a fantastic addition to the Easter story. The figure of Jesus appears in a number of ways in the Gnostic Gospels, from the wise human teacher in the Gospel of Thomas to the divine seer in the Gospel of Judas. What connects these together is that the Gnostics saw Jesus primarily as one who revealed hidden knowledge about reality itself. Like the character of Morpheus in The Matrix, The Gnostics believed that Jesus' hidden teachings revealed that the world is not what it seems, but is an illusion created by YABOIII. All we have to do is wake up. But the disciples of Judas and Thomas weren't the only ones to receive hidden wisdom. In fact, some claim that Jesus' closest disciple wasn't even a man. Of all the characters in the Christian story, none have captured the imagination quite like Mary Magdalene, especially surrounding her relationship with Jesus. In the New Testament, Mary Magdalene is the follower of Jesus and one of the very first to witness his resurrection. However, in later Christian tradition, she developed a bad reputation. Early church fathers began to identify her with an unnamed sinner who washes Jesus' feet, or with a prostitute who repents her former ways. But nowhere in the Bible does it explicitly say that they are the same person. In recent years, there have been efforts to restore the status of Mary Magdalene, some even suggesting that she might have been Jesus' favourite disciple. Mary Magdalene features in many of the Gnostic Gospels, but one text in particular has inspired endless speculation: the Gospel of Philip. Now, it's not a gospel in the strictest sense. Instead, it's a collection of esoteric sermons, cosmologies, and ritual teachings. But one passage has caught the attention of scholars, as it seems to suggest that Mary and Jesus had an intimate relationship. The text
that's crazy. That's
fragmentary, so parts are missing. But here's what
your own boys ratting you out. You know
what it says. Mary Magdalene was the companion of the Saviour. He loved her more than all the other disciples and kissed her on her, text missing, more often than he kissed the rest of the disciples. The disciples asked him, "Why do you love her more than any of us?" Awkward missing text aside, the Gospel of Philip has often been interpreted as evidence of a long-standing rumour about Jesus and Mary, that they may have been romantic partners. However, others urge caution. You see, it all depends on how you translate this passage. The word companion here can have a range of meanings, from associate all the way to spouse. Secondly, there is debate over what this kiss actually means. You see, throughout the New Testament, it often appears as a form of greeting. Most famously, of course, when Judas Iscariot identified Jesus with a kiss. Elsewhere, the Apostle Paul describes a holy kiss as a common greeting among Christians. Whatever the nature of their relationship, the Gnostic Gospel of Philip clearly suggests that Mary Magdalene held a privileged position among the disciples. In some Gnostic circles, Mary Magdalene was seen as the recipient of Jesus' innermost teachings, and that's certainly the case with the Gospel of Mary. It's one of the few texts that we knew of before Nag Hammadi. It appears to describe a conversation between Jesus and Mary. One of the topics they discuss is what happens to us when we die. Jesus reveals to Mary the journey every soul must undertake to reach the highest heaven. The soul must recite certain passwords, often in the form of hymns. After Jesus reveals these things to Mary, the disciples speak with her, consumed by jealousy. Much to their disappointment, they cannot understand why Jesus would withhold such important information and reveal it to, well, a woman. The status of Mary Magdalene in the Gnostic Gospels is a fascinating subject. Aside from the popular rumours about whether she and Jesus had a secret romance, scholars have been interested in what these texts reveal about the role of women in these early Christian communities. Mary's privileged status may suggest...
I think people just gotta understand that men and women will always be different, right? So the connection you have with a woman will always be different from the connection you have with the boys. You know, with the boys, you could talk about things that are going to be a little bit different than you can with your homegirl, you know what I'm saying?
That the Gnostic communities were far more equal than other churches. Yet, according to some Gnostic Gospels, the keys to heaven appear to be given to Mary Magdalene, whose hidden knowledge contains Jesus' most secret teachings. On our journey through the Gnostic Gospels so far, we've dived into lost teachings and misunderstood disciples. But there's one final thing that often doesn't get talked about enough. What was it like to be a Gnostic Christian? Based on what we know about early Christianity and from the Gnostic texts, there are a few practices that we can piece together, since many Gnostics viewed the physical world as corrupt.
Bro, this is like Shia versus Sunnis in the Muslim religion, right? Shias and Sunnis are so similar, but they're very different at the same time, right? Like to the average American or the average person, they're gonna think it's the same thing, but the way they pray is different. The way they do a lot of things is completely different. The lineage and the way they claim the descendants is different, right? So
they have practiced asceticism, meaning that they denied themselves of physical comforts. This could include a whole range of things, including fasting, celibacy, and prohibitions against eating meat. They would have likely lived in small communities, headed by a teacher, and in some cases, they would have lived far away from cities. For many Christians, including the Gnostics, the deserts of Egypt were considered an ideal setting for a life of prayer, far removed from the pleasures of the earthly world. This may partially explain why so many of these texts were discovered in this region. But for one of the most secretive Gnostic practices, we must again turn to the Gospel of Philip. It speaks of a holy sacrament known as the bridal chamber. What this practice actually involved is a mystery. The Gospel of Philip seems reluctant to divulge its secrets. The bridal chamber remains hidden. It is the holy in the holy. Now, the name itself might suggest some sort of wedding ceremony, but the details in the text hint that the bridal chamber only involved a single person. Many believe it was a ritual meant to unite the believer's earthly soul with its heavenly counterpart. Those who successfully passed this rite were known as the sons of the bridal chamber and were regarded as the holiest members of the community. The Gnostic Gospels are also full of hymns and liturgies, but one of the most unusual among them are the many vowel chants. In one liturgical text, you can find these long strings of letters. It's believed that chanting these vowels in a long sustained manner could bring the practitioner closer to the divine, much like the Aum in Hindu and Buddhist meditation. Ancient rituals like these give us a new angle to understand the Gnostic Christians. Just like the Christianity of today, their religion was not just about writing things down, but about practicing it through worship. With these ancient prayers and rituals, believers may have connected to something that words cannot describe, a far deeper form of gnosis. The Gnostic Gospels reveal a world of alternative Christian teachings and esoteric beliefs. Through chance discoveries like the Nag Hammadi library, we can finally hear the Gnostic Christians in their own words, words that were long thought to be lost to history. But what happened to the Gnostics? If they were once so widespread, why did they fall into obscurity? Well, another type of Christianity rose to replace them, the Christianity that endures to this day. How did the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John make it into the Bible, and not the Gospels of Thomas, Mary, and Judas? The story of how the 27 books of the New Testament came to be is a long and winding one. Now, contrary to what you might have expected, the Christian canon didn't just begin as a complete set of writings. Instead, it was a much more gradual process. And within it lies the fate of the Gnostic Gospels.
I mean, I know a lot of people don't believe in the New Testament. They always go to the Old Testament, right?
Let's start the story where we left off before, the Christianity of the 2nd century. Now, during this time, Christianity was spreading rapidly across the Mediterranean, but it was rather different to the one we see today. In fact, it may be easier to see what it didn't have: a formal, recognized creed, consensus on the nature of the Trinity, a doctrine of original sin, but most of all...
the only thing I find a little bit strange about the Holy Trinity, that it makes it seem like it's not a monotheistic religion. It makes it seem like it's 3 different gods, right? That's the only thing. It's like, I know they say Jesus is the descendant, like son of God, right? But the main thing in Islam is like Jesus is like the prophet, because once you make him the son of God, now you have a second God, right? It's like the Holy Trinity makes it seem like there's 3 different gods, basically.
A fixed, agreed upon scripture. Because of this lack of consensus, rival Christian groups emerged. The most established of these early Christian groups coalesced around the earliest writings, from the letters of Paul to the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They broadly shared the same beliefs, especially that Jesus was divine and had died for the sins of humanity. Later, they would call themselves the followers of the correct opinion, or in Greek, orthodox. Of course, we've spent our time looking at another group, the Gnostics, who believed that salvation was through the possession of secret knowledge. Soon, they began to compete against one another, vying for supremacy over the very soul of Christianity itself. But only one would emerge victorious, and it was largely due to the work of one man, Irenaeus of Lyon. Irenaeus of Lyon is one of the most prominent early Christians, and would prove to be the Gnostics' greatest enemy. His most famous work is a series of writings known as Against Heresies. Written in 5 volumes, it was a methodical takedown of every Gnostic belief and text that the author came across. Irenaeus argued that Jesus' message was available to all and wasn't about hiding secrets. For Irenaeus, the writings he believed were the most authoritative are the ones we'd find in today's New Testament. They were some of the oldest writings around, and therefore closest to the historical life of Jesus. Irenaeus did not defeat Gnosticism in one stroke, but his devastating arguments against them likely marked the beginning of the end. To my mind, the secretive nature of Gnostic belief meant that it was always destined for decline. A religion that's withdrawn from society is not designed for growth or converts. This is in contrast to the emerging church, which at the time was far more open and benefited from a highly organized structure. This allowed it to grow larger, gain more followers, and become more assertive against what it saw as the threat of Gnosticism. By the start of the 4th century, Gnosticism was already in decline. Meanwhile, the church was in the ascendancy and was about to receive a massive advantage. For centuries, Roman emperors saw Christians as a threat and carried out a policy of persecution. But that was all to change with Constantine, who adopted a position of tolerance towards Christians. In fact, he convened the Council of Nicaea, where bishops drafted their first great statement of faith, the Nicene Creed. It affirmed their version of Christianity and that anything else was heresy. In the years that followed, Christianity became the state religion. But there was still one more step in the journey of the New Testament canon. Even now, many churches lacked a universally recognized list of writings. A key milestone came in 367 AD, when the influential bishop Athanasius wrote an Easter letter to the various churches. In it, he outlined the 27 books he considered authoritative, a list identical to the New Testament canon we know today. By the end of the 4th century, the official books of the Bible were established, and the Gnostics were further pushed to the margins of society. What remained of this ancient Christian movement retreated to the fringes of the empire, like the community of Nag Hammadi. There they continued in secrecy and copied down their writings, and seemingly left them for future generations. While most of their texts are likely lost to us, a few of them were preserved, buried in the shifting sands of the Egyptian desert. Although the Gnostics were regarded as the first major threat to the church, they may have done more to define Christianity than anything else. By forcing early church fathers to reflect and draw boundaries of belief, the Gnostics actually helped shape the Christianity that we know today. And while there may have been schisms, reformations, and counter-reformations, almost every branch of Christianity today descends from those early Orthodox communities. I don't know about you, but when I read the Gnostic writings, it feels like I'm peering into a parallel universe. It all sounds familiar, yet so alien at the same time, where figures like Jesus coexist with demiurges and divine emanations. I sometimes wonder what the world would look like if Gnosticism had become the dominant form of Christianity. It's a miracle that any of these texts have survived, especially the collection discovered at Nag Hammadi. While the Gnostic Gospels contain unusual ideas and even controversial teachings, to me, what they really reveal is the diversity of Christianity in its earliest years. From the very beginning, there was never a single Christianity, but instead Christianities in the plural. As long as Christianity has existed, there have been debates about the life and message of Jesus, and the Gnostic Gospels bring those debates to life in all their strange and imaginative ways. Hey, thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this one. If you like this video,
that was a lot of information. I feel like, chat, that was a lot of learning, bro. Like, especially going from some level of conspiracy to a level of history, I guess. I feel like that was a lot of learning. That was a lot of information that's, you know, kind of up here just hurting my brain. You know, I feel like there's a lot of things that now I have to like really think on, because look, there's things that we really truly think that are true and then that we know are true. What I know to be true is I ain't know shit. You know, I don't know shit. And I feel like what I know to be true is this world is weirder than I truly could ever imagine. What I know to be true, that things just seem to get only weirder the more you look into them, the more you try to make sense of the world, the weirder it gets. So a wise man once said, all I know is I know nothing at all. And genuinely, the more I look into different religions, the more I look into historical religions and historical accounts of the same religions, but from different perspectives, things just get weirder and weirder. So how do I bring this back to the Epstein list, right? Like, how do I bring all this back to the Epstein list? How do I bring this to the Epstein files and the Epstein saga overall? The reason I bring it back to that is because, look, we don't know what these motherfuckers are trying to achieve being predators and what they're trying to achieve doing all these weird ritual witchcraft activities. All I know is they're wanting to achieve a certain level of power and a certain level of control over the population. And when you look into all these historical accounts of agnostic beliefs or historical accounts of religions and alternative history, when it, you know, really comes down to the ADs and 200 BC, nobody really fucking knows. It's just, you can really go off of the old text and kind of just make a educated guess. And all I can truly say is like, yo, what the fuck is going on? All I know is these elites, these high level players, these politicians and wealthy families, the bloodlines that have been running the world for some time. They believe in something that you and I, as the common man, do not understand fully just yet. But it is something that I would like to uncover because it has intrigued me in the last couple of years. It has been something that has intrigued me, the occult knowledge and the level of occult belief has really boggled my mind, because it is not in the public consciousness. It is genuinely something that is hidden, right? Occult knowledge is just hidden knowledge. And it is something that has intrigued me, because no matter how deep I look, how far I study this stuff, it all comes down to these relics, these old ancient texts stating that there are relics and things of, how would you say, ancient times, these biblical weapons or biblical accounts of different things that do nothing but bring you a level of knowledge and consciousness to really make you think about where you came from and who you truly really are. Because at the end of the day, it really comes down to, you need to wake up and you need to realize where you really come from and who you are a descendant of. But one thing out of all of it is true, is that you are the Son of God and made in the image of God. Everybody knows that we are made in the image of God. So do not let these predators, these fucking vile humans, tell you how to live your life. Know that you are made in the image of God, and you are to follow God, because you are the soldier that God created. And once you have that belief deep down in your soul and you awaken to that belief, it is over for these fucking predators, and these weird power-hungry games are no more. So if you do nothing at all, and if you learn nothing at all, just know this. Have hope. Have hope that we will come out of this darkness, because light will shine upon these demons. And I think until next time, chat, until next time, I hope y'all have a good one. I hope y'all stay blessed. And go read a book.